Hi there. Yeah, I know. We're talking about something that's not MCU related for once. That may be a little weird for most of you, and if it is, I do apologize. But for those of you that don't know, there's a certain big horror movie that's coming out this month. So, what better time than now to go back through the franchise and give my thoughts on it? Because I haven't actually reviewed these movies before, and it's mainly because most of them aren't very good. But hey, what I'm seeing from this new entry so far, from the marketing and the trailers, it looks excellent. So I'm super psyched about that one. So in celebration, I thought, what the hell? Let's review them anyway. So let's go ahead and jump into one of the most batshit insane horror movies that you will probably ever watch in your life. That being Final Destination. So what's up? What's happening? What's going on? Everybody, welcome back to DestiMAYtion, your sister for anything and everything animation, including TV and movies, and especially horror films. I am your local horror nut, Jackson Small, and today we are reviewing the first Final Destination, which I have some pretty interesting thoughts on. Now I'm just going to say right now, this is a good movie. It is. But I can't call it great, because it does have some problems. Now, it's not humongous problems, mind you. It's not stuff that, completely ruins the experience or anything like that. It's just things that ended up piling together as I watched, and it ultimately ended up becoming a huge flaw. But not to the point of making it bad, just to the point of keeping it out of the greatness of other horror films, especially horror slashers. Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare, their kin. So, without further ado, and it being 11:50 at night, because, again, I am playing catch-up on this, let's talk about Final Destination. Here's my written review for the first movie. I hope you enjoy, and feel free to leave your thoughts down below if you disagree with me. Just don't be a dick. Here we go. With 2 phases of the MCU reviews now complete, it's time to switch gears for a moment and revisit one of the most batshit insane franchises in the horror genre to get all caught up for its brand new entry, Final Destination. Before I even start the review though, I do have to start by talking about its concept and how huge of a shakeup it was for slashers back in the 2000s. Because 2000s is known as the decade of remakes, whereas this one decided to have some originality. Rather than having a psychopath in a mask killing teenagers like the usual status quo, instead it is literally death itself, creating Ruth Goldberg tracks of increasing complexity and ferocity to kill whoever is on his list. That's not only actually terrifying because there's no face to the killer, but also an unbelievably creative way to flip the subgenre completely upside down. Seriously, the people that made this movie, huge props to you for coming up with something so unique and creative for a horror film. That alone gets you some props, because as every decade goes by, that becomes harder and harder to do. However, as much as I love the concept and the very creative kills it leads to, some of the most creative in all of horror, the movies themselves don't have a very good track record, and 2 of them in particular are outright awful. As for the original, though, it's pretty good. The kills and gore are fantastic, even if the effects aren't great because it is low budget. Horror legends Tony Todd and Devon Sawa deliver really good performances, Tony already being an established legend by this point, and just, doing what he does best, may he rest in peace. And yes, my Bloodlines review will be dedicated to him. And, of course, Devon Sawa, who had his big breakout role in the horror genre of Final Destination, but then went on to be in a bunch of other really cool projects, most notably, recently, the Chucky TV series, in multiple different roles, and in a movie we actually reviewed not too long ago, Hard Eyes. And he was great in there too, even though his role was pretty short. So, yeah, it's 2 horror legends delivering really good performances. The story is solid. It does a good job of being sort of like a whodunit without the actual whodunit. Like, again, there's no actual, killer here in the normal sense of terms. Instead, it's literally just death itself creating these supernatural accidents that lead to death. So these characters, after surviving a big plane accident after the main character, Alex, has premonition of this plane becoming a giant flaming fireball of death, they have to try and figure out Death's whole plan while also trying to keep the rest of the survivors from getting killed. It's a pretty interesting concept, and the story does a good job mostly maintaining that. It doesn't unlock the full potential of that concept, but it does really good with what it has. The pacing is consistent, it's slow, but it's not slow to the point of boring. Dark humor is pretty funny. This movie has some pretty funny dark humor moments, like, the iconic bus scene, the moment where you have a dude screaming at someone while a train's coming by just to get his head bifurcated. Stuff like that. They actually have a really good dark sense of humor, and more often than not, it not only shocks, but also results in a lot of laughs. And I mean that in a positive. I don't mean that as in, oh, it's so bad it becomes fun to laugh at. No, genuinely funny. And yes, there is a difference. Writing is sharp. It's dark. It's adult, surprisingly. It's adult, it's mature, it's unique, and it does a good job telling the story. So, yeah, writing is sharp. The premonition disaster is effectively terrifying. Seeing this airplane slowly and surely catch on fire and just break apart. Yeah, that is a genuinely shocking moment, and on first watch, I did not even know it was a premonition, because when I first watched this movie, it was way after it already came out. I watched it for the first time around the 2010s, and it shocked me that it was all a premonition and not actual kills. But still, it was a pretty crazy way to open the movie. The effects are decent for its budget. There is a lot of CGI, but it's not to the point of being, egregious, like some of the later entries. And the runtime is more than reasonable. It's less than 2 hours. It's a relatively easy sit. But here's where the problems come in. The rest of the acting is pretty hit or miss. Some of them, like Carter, are ridiculous in how cheesy and over the top they go, to a point of being funny. And then others just sound, like your normal disinterested horror actors that are there for a paycheck. The teacher, in particular. The characters are very typical slasher fodder. Aside from Alex, everyone else here, and aside from Clear, who has final girl protection status, as we call it here in the horror genre, everyone else here is pretty much slasher fodder, of varying different degrees. The directing is amateur. This is definitely from someone that's not used to working with the camera, but it's not, to the point of Michael Bay bad. There's not, shaky camera or anything like that, but it's still amateur. It feels flat, it feels lifeless, it doesn't have much character to it. And that's not helped by the cinematography, which is pretty mediocre. The colors are pretty flat and generic, and since this is the 2000s, you have that weird, oversaturation on top of it. It's weird. The final act is an absolute mess, regardless of which ending it results in. This movie has 2 alternate endings for some reason. I don't know, it's weird and it's stupid, and regardless of the ending, the final act itself is a huge mess. The story is solid, but it's very convoluted. If you miss one little detail, you're just going to be left confused the entire time. Clear Waters is a very boring final girl. There's a reason she doesn't last long in this franchise, because she's very, very boring. And rewatchability is middling. It's a good movie, but I have to be in the right mood to want to rewatch it, if you know what I mean. Overall, though, this is a solid first attempt at such a bold and unique concept, even with its apparent flaws. Sure, it's not up there with the slasher greats, like many claim, but it's entertaining enough as a fascinating flip on the rules of the genre. If you're looking for originality, it will be right up your alley. So with all that said, give it a try. Final verdict is a 7 out of 10. Good movie, check it out. It's just not great. Will it get great? Well, We'll talk about it next time when we get to Final Destination 2.
Excited for what comes up ahead. Hey, shall we ride?